the dialect that Tom and that Leo are going to be speaking. And they have done presentations before, but we really haven't videotaped it. And then after we, Amanda's going to do the taping of it, and or back there. And then it'll be edited, and after that, we'll let you know where it will be posted and how it will be available to you and to others. But before we start, I just want to go through why this is so valuable to us. And as you know, the Germans left Germany in 1763, and of course they headed for Russia. And you all know that our people settled along the Volga and were there for about 100 years. And they spoke this German dialect, but the dialect was, of course, from varying areas of Germany, and it mixed in with Russian a little bit. So they come over here after 100 years to America in 1876, and of course settled in various regions, but a big portion settled here in Ellis County. And as you just heard, we're going to be celebrating 150 years here in this county. And so you're talking about, now we're in America, and of course our dialect mixes with English. So we have a German that is now 250 years old. You know, 100 out of Germany in Russia, and then 150 here. So this is 250 years later. And so this is pretty remarkable that here we have two individuals who are still speaking a dialect that was passed on to them from ancestor to ancestor to ancestor. And I think you all know how remarkable this is. Now, we all
have to correct you. Now, we're not 250 years old.
Well, you represent ancestors way back, and that's the remarkable thing, is that you retained the dialect that was just passed on, and it was verbal. It was not a written dialect, and that's where here in Ellis County we've had a lot of trouble in recipes and everything, because everything was passed on verbally. It wasn't written down, and so that's why a lot of our spellings. But we've had German teachers come in to try to recorrect everything we've done. And so we have a bit of a mix here in Ellis County. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is dialect, because sometimes it's a little confusing. Last meeting, we had Dr. Keel from KU, and by the way, KU has really been very helpful in sorting out for us where we come from in Germany, which areas in Germany our dialects represent. And Dr. Keel is the one, and by the way, this is on, you can Google this, and you can find KU thesis that Dr. Keel wrote in 1980, pinpointing our dialect in Germany. And then recently I just saw, and I haven't read his dissertation. I'm not really into dissertations, but there's another young man from KU who just published a dissertation in 1992 about the Shenzhen dialect. And you can find all these if you want to see where, if you want to go deeper into dialect. But I just want to say that our dialects, according to Dr. Keel, can be divided into three parts. There is the Low German, which is northern Germany. And a lot of times people think low means spoken by people of a lower class, but actually low just means the northern part of Germany is the lowest place of Germany, meaning geographically. That's where your North Sea is, and that's where the Baltic Sea is. And that's why it's called low. Then you have the Middle German, and that is pretty much what Tom and Leo represent. Well, Tom definitely represents the Middle German part of Germany. And then you have the High German, which is the southern part of Germany. And that, of course, are the Alps, Bavaria, and that's why it's called high, because of the elevation, and it's geographical. Now, Standard German today is pretty much taken from High German and Middle German, but High German mainly. And that's why what Leo speaks is the Catherine people have always we've been told that they speak the High German. And that Standard German has a lot in common with how Leo speaks. Okay? So, today I'm going to give this over to Leo and Tom, and you can tell them all about dialect.
All right, before we begin, I have a gentleman that I invited here today, with Liker. Dat is 95 jaar oud. Daar had 9 hakbreit gebouwd zelfs. He's 95 years of age, and he personally built 9 Dorzweilers. Dat somebody hakbreit genomen.
Nee, das ist die Zimbal.
Zimbal, zie, die gaat weer net recht. Jetzt, with down the shame that's the high is. All right, we're going to begin, and Norma is going to kind of serve as the English moderator, and ich kon altijd gelernt wie je kleines kind was. I learned something as a small child. Wenn da jemand älter ist, bist du der Erste, der immer erst. If there's someone here that's older, you always honor them out of respect first. Der Leo ist älter wie ich sei und du gehst erst, Leo. Und jetzt, wenn wir anfangen, bleibt alles in Deutsch. Die Norma nimmt es in Englisch und ich und der Leo legen alles out in Deutsch. Jetzt gehen wir vorwärts.
Ja, das kann sein, dass ich älter bin wie du, aber das guckt nicht so.
Guck mal da.
Ich kenn mich mal verstehen.
What he just said was, he might be older, but he doesn't look like he's older.
Can you hear me back there? Because if I go to church or wherever and you can't hear him, you might as well stay home.
En de andere hand blijven.
Yeah.
Dat is net verstaan.
But anyway, to what Norma was talking about our dialects, when I flew to Germany, we always liked to fly Lufthansa because they had the German stewardess, and we were flying across the ocean one morning. They always fly at night, and about 9:30 in the morning, the stewardess come by me, and she was taking drink orders, and she said, can I get you something to drink? She was German, but she thought we were all German. Ich sagt, du holst mich ein Bier. And she was going to go to the next one, and she backed up, and she says, wo kommst denn du her? And ich sagt, from Kansas. Nein, sagt sie. Wo bist du geboren? Ich sag, Kansas. Du sprichst doch so Deutsch. So haben wir gesprochen 100 Jahre zurück, sagt sie. So that's just what she was saying, that our dialect stayed the same. And she was from Stuttgart, Germany, and her name was Hauser, and she called the other stewardess over, and we stood in the middle of the plane where they mixed the drinks and things, and she was a Hurdle, also from Stuttgart, same names as we have here. So was very interesting when she says that dialect stayed the same. Well, like when our people went to Russia, they kept the dialect. They didn't mix with the Russians. They always spoke the same dialect. When they came over here the same way, they didn't mix with the others. They spoke the same dialect. Haas, die springen bis ewig Stepp rum und die tun anderes Wesen auf Frauen. But anyway, back to our ancestors, that I'm the second generation born here in the United States. The old great-grandfather came over first when they left Germany. They went to Brazil and toured Brazil, and they didn't like it. They were together with Unruns, and great-grandfather and my grandfather, he was 18, and that is the reason they left. Actually, they escaped over there because he was ready for the draft. They were starting to draft the boys, the German boys, and if you read articles or listened to Lawrence Weigel, they always said that they were promised they would never have to serve the draft. Now, that is not the case. You read some things, they say it's for 100 years or 10 years, but everything that I have seen was an unlimited or unspecified number of years. So they could have introduced that any time. But it was really about 100 years when they started it. And one of the first ones that was drafted out of Karinstadt was a Spies. And the Spies' mother was a Dorzweiler. And it was Peter Spies that was drafted. And then Peter went AWOL out of the Russian army and jumped on a freighter and came to the United States. He didn't know anybody over here or nothing, but he landed in Haas, and they had one child in Russia, in Karinstadt. So he left the family, the wife and the kid at home, and he couldn't go back to get her because they would have shot him on the spot. So he was over here, and he sent a Mr. Wolf over to pick up his wife and family, and he picked up some other women to bring along. And when I went to Russia the second time in '97, I had really corresponded with a 95-year-old fella by the name of H.E.R.R. Haas, and his mother was at Dorzweiler. I got that information after we left the first time we were in Russia. So I went back to visit with him, and he was 95 years old. And you could read those articles, I think, in the Lincoln papers. We kind of got upset with Lincoln, Lawrence Weigel and I. They were supposed to print it, and they didn't do it for a long time, till after I gave it to Hayes and papers, and then they didn't like that. But that's what happened with us being a little on the outs with them, and Lawrence did too. So that is the history of our Germans. When great-grandfather left Karinstadt, they were supposed to report to the officers in Karinstadt if they wanted to emigrate out of Russia. Karinstadt had it and Saratov had it. Now, Munger did not have it. So you could leave without reporting it. And so the Dorzweilers took the cart and donkey and went from Karinstadt to Obermungen. And in the ship reports, it showed like they were from Obermungen, which was not the case. They were really from Karinstadt. And he brought along a family of Rups. And Kevin was supposed to find out. I gave him the instructions, I haven't heard from him yet, to see what happened to those Rups. They first went to Brazil. Those Rups must have been a little intermarried with the Dorzweilers, because that's what one of my relations said in Germany. And so the Rups didn't have the money for the fare. So the Karinstadt, the Dorzweiler gave them the money for the fare to go to Brazil. And then when they toured Brazil, the Dorzweilers didn't like it. They says, we'll go back to North America where their friends are. And the Rups were disgusted, and they've been on the road for how long? And they wanted to go back to Germany, to Russia. So Dorzweiler says, well, how are you going to go to Russia? You didn't have the money to come here. And they says, if you don't give me the money for us to go back to Russia, and there was about 5 of them with little kids, and they says that we will report you they brought another lady along by the name of Mary Rupp, and she was an invalid. And if they would have said that she was not a Dorzweiler, she wouldn't have been able to go. But if it was the family, why she was able to go along. So he was afraid he'd get reported, so he gave them the money to send them back to Russia. Now, we don't have any information what happened to them. Did they go back to Russia, he gave them the money, or did the Brazilians rob them and throw them overboard? No idea. But some of the kids' names was, Adam was one, Connie was one, which we had them here. So I would like to find out what happened to them Roops if they go back, because we have never heard if they made it here at all. So on the Dorzweiler side, that was my great-grandfather Jacob, and Baldassar was the 18-year-old. And on the great-grandmother's side, it was the Myers. And a lot of history on Jacob Meyer. He came over with 4 daughters, and so you have somebody come from Russia, that wealthy Russian, they called him. He was supposed to have come with $80,000 in 1878, and when he passed away, why the county had to bury him. He lost it all, and some of it, he built the first flour mill at the Saline, and some of his rocks from that flour mill are here in the St. Joseph's Church in the rectory. You may not know that.
Yes, musste ich gar nicht.
Okay, but it's all in the history here. So that is my history. You want to go with yours? Du hast Krieg Haas und auch Sterbe Haas.
Es gibt vielleicht dunkel, wenn deiner nur fährt. It might get dark if he don't quit. Just kidding him. I'm going to give you just a quick history. My ancestors, the first 2 generations, it began with Michael Haas Sr. and his wife, Catherine Schreiner Haas. My great-grandpa also came from Russia, and grandma. My grandpa was, of course, Jacob Haas, and his wife was Pauline Dechant Haas. And then, of course, my parents, Alfred and Tekla Burns. My mom was from Vincent Haas. And the communities that they come from were, of course, the first 2 generations, all in Russia. They would have been in the Whitman, Remler, Saratov, Solothurn area. And we, as a family, 37 of us, 100 years, our ancestors only began their trek in November of 1902, arriving in Munger, Kansas in January of 1903, then on to the community of Antonina, which a number of people from Munger also went along to Antonina to begin the community of Antonina in 1905. And so the community of Antonina was started in 1905 with a number of people from Munger. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a background as to where our family originally came from, the first 2 generations in Russia. And today in our family, the family farm that we sat on represents 6 generations on my grandma Dechant Haas side, that family. I think it's about 6-7 years ago, we got the Monsignor John George Weber Century Farm Award on an original homestead, and Teresa and I are the 4th generation owners of the family farm, and certainly proud to represent all of you here today. We want to thank Almighty God every day that our ancestors come to America and that we're in a country where we're still free. Okay, Norma, we're ready to roll.
Where would you like me to begin? Wait, what do you want me to begin with, words?
Start with
Well,
the...
I would like to go with the sentences. Because the sentences mean more. And if anybody has any words or anything that you would like to ask, I have paper if you want to write them down, and that way we can put them in sentences for the next time around. But who would have thought at this time that there's only 2 of them that we know of that can still make a sentence and keep a a steady conversation going. I asked about some from Victoria the other day at Catherine, and they couldn't come up with one. Sure, they know German words, but they cannot converse in sentences and things like that. But so we're the old timers. Hey, Haas, ja. Aber am Ende lernst du ein bisschen gut Deutsch. Okay, we'll have Norma ask the questions, and then we'll go and say our dialects, and then he will say his, and I will know some of the Shenshin or Herzog.
I'm going to represent Antonino and Muncher.
Okay. I think these sentences might be called the Wanker sentences. The dialect, I think these are, back in the 1800s, or they were trying in Germany to decide where the people, these villages in Russia, where they did come from. And Wanker, I believe he's German, he developed these sentences to point out there's certain words that they will disagree with on, and you might hear it and you might not hear it. But they're usually farm-based, agricultural-based, because that's what our people were. Okay, so let's begin.
The Leo is the eldest, that great Ash. Leo's the oldest, so he gets to go first.
God, you ever smiled?
We hauled our wheat into the granary.
We have unser Weiz in Hamburg gefahren.
Now, unser Vads in Hamburg farm. Pay close attention to Leo, as Norma alluded to just a moment ago, and we'll keep rolling. That's the closest for some young kids in here that are studying German, don't know that there's any here today, but that you're going to hear the closest to a lot of phrases in High German that he speaks.
The chicken hawk caught the chicken.
Der Stauser hat das Hindel gefangen.
What they call a chicken hawk?
Stauser.
Das habe ich so left off noch nicht gehört. Hat die Hindel gefangen. Chicken hawk caught the chickens, but I never heard the German word before. That was, see, that's Elderby. He knew it because he's older than I am.
Ja, der Stauser hat den Haas nicht gefangen. Dann kommt ihn aus Hindel. Na, was sagst du für Stauser?
Das habe ich so left off noch nicht davor gehört.
Du weißt nicht, was Stauser was.
Ich weiß nicht, was das ist.
Oh, der sagt Hingelzappig.
Oh, hier, das war ich sagen, Himmelzappig. Hat die Himmel gefangen.
Ja, ja.
Himmelzappig.
Na ja, meine Frau ist sie auch von anderen hin.
Das wusste ich auch. Chicken hawk, Himmelzappig, I just couldn't think of it.
Ja, ja,
Hat die Himmel gefangen. Go ahead, Norman.
Okay, we had a lot of large hail last night.
Wir haben große Schlose gestern Abend gehabt.
Es hat viel gekisselt letzten Abend.
Okay, talking about Kisla. Now, we say Kisla for the little ones. Und Schlose sind, wenn sie Gräser sind.
Yes,
So
you are right.
we got a difference.
We went hunting with the shotgun.
Wir sind Jagd gegangen mit die Flint.
Wir sind Jagd gegangen mit Square.
Well,
The horses ran away.
die Pferde sind fortgesprungen.
Die Geil sind fortgesprungen.
Yeah, you hear the difference between a horse and horse. They're two different words that they used. I could not catch that horse.
Ich konnte das Pferd nicht fangen.
Ich konnte den Gaul nicht fangen.
Okay, he says Val and he says Gowan. We picked some watermelons last night.
Wir haben gestern Abend Arbuse zusammen gemacht.
Man gestern Abend Arbus gerobt.
And actually, German is Wassermelon. Arbus is Russian.
Right, right. Yeah. We also picked some nice pickles.
Wir haben schöne Gurke gehabt. Gurke.
Schöne Gurke gerobt.
Okay,
Ja,
and
hat sie mal einmal jetzt recht gesagt. He just said it right for the first time.
da ist jetzt aufgeweckt. Na, in Herzogen der Piper sagen sie Gummere für Gurke.
You had some nice carrots.
Du hast schöne gelbe Triebe.
Schöne gelbe Geriebe gerobt.
I think it's up Gala, if Gil.
Galen, River.
Okay.
Yellow carrots.
We had a lot of lightning last evening.
We have a veel geblitst gehad gisteravond.
We hadden veel blitz gehad en gisteravond.
We did not get much rain.
We hebben niet veel regen gehad.
Niet veel regen, zo geht het nog dit jaar. Het is weinig regen.
Tom, you have to stick with the
What
sentence.
I said was, we just had rain last night. We haven't had rain for a long time, including this year.
He edited it a little bit. Okay, the flies were very bad.
Zag die flies.
The flies.
Okay, die miggen waren slim.
Die miggen waren slim.
That fellow is drunk. That fellow is drunk.
Dat is besoffen.
Daar had de tegel vol.
Dat hebben we ook al eens gezegd. En wenn ze van Antonina waren, hebben ze een dekkel vol gehad.
Okay, no, this is not true.
Dat is niet waar.
Dat is niet die waarheid.
Your eyes are watering.
De ogen doen wesseren.
Een eigen bessering.
The flies are bad on the cattle.
Slim, die miggen zijn slim aan het vee.
Die miggen zijn slim aan het vlieg.
My wife is from the town of Antonino.
Wat zegt u?
Wait a minute. My wife is from the town of Antonino.
En mijn vrouw is van die dorp in Antonina.
Mijn vrouw is van de dorp in Muncher. Hans van die Engelsmaker.
Pull up your pants.
Zie de hozen jij.
Zie je mal deine Hose auf.
Wat zegt u?
Zie je mal deine Hose auf.
Nou, du sagst nicht hozen?
Nou, ich habe doch gerade gesagt, was ich sage.
Okay.
Die Hose aufziehen.
Okay. Ja. Heilbronn schenkt die denke ich sage hozen.
No, nicht ich.
Okay, the next one. I'm going to the toilet.
Ich gehe jetzt in Abtritt.
Ich gehe in Durchschnitt.
Ja, and it's not transgender.
You notice that the word here, of course, is toilet. And Leo says Abtritt, and Tom says Nishnuk.
And Nishnuk is Russian.
Yeah. And so you heard that. They're targeting certain words here. If you listen closely.
Norma, just a minute. On Friday, der Freitag war ich in Katharinenstadt und ich wusste gar nicht, wo ich rein soll bleiben. Die hat nicht an für die Mannsleute, nicht an für die Weibsleute. Und da sagt er, kannst rein laufen, wo du willst. Go in wherever you want to.
Well, actually, I didn't know where he belonged.
It is sure hot today.
This is ziemlich heißheit.
Ziemlich heißheit.
Ice, okay. He is cutting up wood. He is cutting up wood.
Der tut Holz versägen.
Er hat Holz geschneit.
Ja,
Holz geschneit.
ja.
Kein Wood.
Das war nicht recht. Das war nicht recht für euch. Jetzt, du sagst,
Holz geschnitten.
du sagst, die tun uns Holz versägen.
Naja, das geht ja. Ich habe es verschnitten und du hast versägt.
Nein, wir tun uns versägen. Aber das hat mit Larry Watt, haben wir immer gesagt, wo, die Mutter kam und sagt, wo sind die Buben? Die sind draußen, die versägen das ganze Holz. Aber wir sagen sägen für was anderes.
Ja.
Okay. We drove to Hayes.
Wir sind nach Haas gefahren.
Wir sind nach Haas gefahren.
It's in this sign. Okay.
Gefahren.
Gefahren. Naja. The boys are outside playing.
Die Jungs sind draußen spielen.
Die Jungs sind draußen spielen.
The mosquitoes are bad tonight.
Die Kamaren sind schlimm heute Abend.
Das wusste ich gar nicht, was das war in Deutsch. Mosquitoes. Was hast du gesagt?
Langpaar, sagt ihr.
Oh, Langpaar, das war, ja. Die Langpaar sind schlimm.
Ja.
Das ist auch recht.
Das sind ein paar Dinge, habe ich gelernt von meiner Frau.
Na
Du
ja.
hast doch was Gutes gelernt.
He's got a wife from Antonino, so he's got a little bit of an in here, right, Leo?
Ja, ja.
Okay, okay. The lightning bugs are out already.
Die Blitzkäfer sind ja schon Hause.
Die Feierminger sind uns Haus.
Blitzkäfer, der und Feiermiger.
Feierminger.
Firemiga?
Feierminger.
Yeah, okay. There are a lot of rocks on this field.
Es sind viele Steine auf das Feld.
Sind viel Stau aufs Feld gestanden.
Okay, Stern?
Stau.
Steine.
Steine and your Stamm.
Ja.
Okay, Steine und Stamm. Next one. My legs are hurting me.
Meine Beine tun mich weh.
Mein Bein tun weh.
Ja, und ich denke mal, der Bill war seine gesagt, Bahn. Ja, und ich denke, die Ole sagt, die sagt auch Bahn.
Ja. Wel, die was recht jetzt, Leo.
Das kommt drauf an, wie hoch muss in die Bahn.
My dog barked last night. My dog barked last night.
Der Hund hat gegaust gestern Abend.
Mein Hund hat gestern Abend gegaust.
Du sagst auch Gaus?
Gegaust, ja.
Okay, das sind manche Sachen Bälle.
Okay, good. You are not wearing a tie tonight.
Du tust keine Schlüpper anziehen heute Abend.
Ich habe einen Schlüpper und du hast keinen Schlüpper an. What I just said was, I got a tie on and he don't. I got one on him again.
Ich denke, ich ziehe sie zu.
Okay, your hair are still wet.
Die Haare sind noch nass.
Mein Horn sind noch nass.
Haare und Horn.
Haare.
Horn? Okay, yeah, Haare und Horn, those are the difference there. Okay, the horse jumped up and over the fence.
Das Pferd ist in die Hege gehopsen und ewig die Fenster.
Der Gaul ist über die Fenster gehupst.
Gau.
Yeah. Help me lift this tree up.
Helf mich den Baum in die Hege heben.
Help mir mal an den Baum aufheben.
Baum und Baum.
Okay. Okay. Balthazar was my grandfather.
Balthasar war mein Großvater.
Mein Großvater war der Hose Jakob und sein Wort. Großvater war der Hose Jakob und sein Wort. Jake Haas and his word. My grandpa.
Oh, geez. I think, well, wait a minute. Okay, you got it right. Jacob was my grandfather. You
Yeah.
got the right one. And Balthazar was your grandfather. Okay. I have one wife.
Ich habe eine Frau.
Ich habe eine gute Frau.
Oh, how sweet. He has a good wife. So I only have one child.
Ich habe bloß ein Kind.
Ich habe bloß ein Kind und ich sein eins von 14 Kindern.
Okay, and he's one of 14. So the wind blows.
Der Wind blast.
Der Wind bloßt.
A large kettle.
Großer.
Große Kerl.
Großer Kessel. Das kam nicht gerade zurück, ja. Gerade der Waschkessel.
Da hat's bald vergessen gekommen.
Ja.
Okay, now we go a small cooking kettle.
Den Kastrol.
Kleiner Kessel für zu kochen mit.
Ja, kleiner ist ein Kastrol. Kastrol.
Casserole, huh?
Kleiner Kessel.
Okay, a boy,
Jung.
Ein Jung,
a girl.
Mädchen.
ein Mädchen.
He is my brother-in-law.
Der ist mein Schwager.
Das ist mein Schwager.
Schwager, okay. She is my sister-in-law.
Das ist meine Schwägerin.
Das ist meine Schwägerin.
Schwägerin, okay. He jumps very high.
Er hopst ziemlich hoch.
Er hopst hoch.
The wind blows.
Der Wind blast.
Der Wind bloßt.
Melissa is a very nice girl.
Du sagst Melissa.
Well, I know, I don't understand. It does say Melissa is a very nice girl.
Leer me krat my sak, I've got a schöne smeekje.
I don't know why.
Schöne smeekje.
Ja.
Just a very nice girl.
Very nice.
Schöne smeetje.
Shayna's made you. Yeah. He drives too fast.
Dat vaart zo scharf.
Der Fahrt of Scharf.
He went to a funeral.
Wir sind auf die Beerdigung gegangen.
We zijn op een beëdiging gefahren.
You do not know a darn thing.
Du weißt kein Hundsfuß.
Mijn grootmoeder heeft immer gesagt, wie ich nicht mehr noch herzog sein kann, jeden Sonntag bei denen hat sie immer gesagt, ja, sagt sie, ich weiß ja gerade gar nichts mehr. I don't know nothing anymore. That's what my grandma used to say every Sunday when I'd go to visit her. Ich weiß ja gerade gar nichts mehr.
Yeah. Okay, I have driven to Hayes.
Ich bin nach Haas gefahren.
Ich sei noch Haas gefahren.
Yeah, ich bin nicht sein. Those are two different verb forms there. Okay, he plays the harmonica.
Der spielt die Ziehorgel.
Spielt die Ziehorgel.
Harold played the accordion.
Harold spielt die. Hey, warte mal du. Geh mal zurück. Du sagst die Harmonika.
Ja.
Was war das?
Ziehorgel
No, yours.
Okay.
You first said
Did I say two? Okay, hold on.
he plays the.
He plays the harmonica
Ja,
first.
okay. Der spielt die Fortzobel.
Ich habe immer gesagt, spielt Maulspiel. Harmonica.
No, mir haben gesagt Splasje.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, this was Splasje. But when Harold played for Oktoberfest, we had a fellow here from Germany that came out of Russia, so we asked him what we call that Splasje, and he said that's a Fortzobel in Germany. So that's where I come up with that.
So we don't need to do, the Harold played the accordion.
Ja, daar speelt die Ziehorgel.
Yeah.
Spielt die Ziehorgel.
Okay, the mosquitoes are bad.
Ja, die Kamaren sind schlimm.
Die Kamaren sind schlimm.
The child was crying.
Das Kind hat gekriechen.
Das Kind hat gekreint.
Yeah. You too. You too.
Du
You-
auch?
Du auch.
Yeah, good. Okay, we're done with the sentences.
Okay. But if you can come up with a bunch more, when we have that the next time, we can have, they're a lot nicer in a sentence than just a word.
Okay, well, we have just a few requests here, and then we'll go on. Can you give me a word, or can you tell me in German? Your German doesn't make sense.
She wants that translated.
Is there one word that you would say your German doesn't make sense?
Da muss ich denken.
Loudest.
No.
No.
Ich kann sagen, dein Deutsch meint gar nichts. Doesn't make any sense. Das Deutsch meint mir gar nichts. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that was a tough one.
Out of because in Park, Kansas, there's a mix of Black Sea Germans and Volga Germans, and so when they didn't understand each other, my aunt told me there was one word they'd say, your German is stupid. You don't make sense.
Well, I would say das meint gar nichts. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's
It's my
something.
God.
I don't remember the word, but it was like your German doesn't make sense.
You stumped me.
Anyway, what would you say for a person who's stubborn?
Der Stickkäppis.
That is Dick Kevin. Schreck mal Dick
Ein
Kevin.
richtiger Haas.
I'm going to insert something here. This is something my dad said a lot. We'll tie right into this here, and I got a bunch of these right up here. When someone would say that, der starrt ein dummer fort und der labert zwei dreimal so dumm in dieselbe Schuhe ein.
I know that. What is it?
One dumb one dies, and two twice as dumb walk right back in the same footsteps.
I've got that written in the book, so I know that one.
Hey, before we go further, You married an Engel, Gillum.
Ja, zoals de recht komt.
Okay. Father Rachel Engel was,
Her uncle.
yeah, okay. He was pastor at Catherine. And you knew Jimmy Staub?
Oh yes, en is gekend.
Jimmy Staub, Jerry Hubert,
Die al goed gekend.
and Eddie Carleen.
Al goed
They
gekend.
were all three not married. They were young bucks. And they drank quite a bit. Ja, veel gesopen. And you were supposed to make your confession once a year during the Easter time. And while they were drinking one day, and the priest was going to have confession, Father Engel, and so the boys got a wild idea. Why don't we go to confession? And well, what are we going to say? So they all three made up a story what they were going to tell Father Rachel. And the confessionals, they had just a curtain where you went in on one side and the priest had to open the door to go in and out. So Jimmy Staub said he's the first one that's going to go in. So Jimmy went in, and I don't know what he told him. But anyway, he was just in there a little bit, and all of a sudden Rachel gets up and opens the door and goes outside and says, "Komm raus und komm nicht mehr zurück, bis du nüchtern bist. Come out and don't you come back until you're sober." And the other two were standing in line, you know, so they just all three left church, you know, and it was real loud. So that's how Father Rachel took care of him.
Dat was recht man. He knew what was right. That's why I'm father, because he was a priest, my wife's uncle.
Put that in your memoirs when you're
What was that first word you said when you opened the door? Get out?
come raus, come out, yeah.
Come out?
Are you ready for?
Yeah.
Are you ready for the English words?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, now we're going to do just
So-
the word.
Yeah, some might be duplicates, but
And they
no.
might be duplicates
Yeah.
too. So, okay, and I think we've pointed this out already with some of the sentences, but we'll do it again. Horse,
Fat,
Ein Gau,
rooster,
Han,
Giggle,
shed,
Shabba,
Shire,
fireflies,
Blitzkäfertje,
Firemigger,
flies,
Mega,
Migger,
hail,
Schlozen,
Gizzle,
pigs,
was dat?
pigs, pigs,
Schweine,
Sei,
climb, climb,
Gravelen,
Gegrabbeld,
Gravelduf, ja.
throw, throw,
Baksen,
was dat ik zei?
Grow,
no, throw, throw,
oh, Schmeißen,
Schmissen,
cucumber,
Gorge,
Gorge,
dumplings,
Glump,
Gleis,
was hast du?
Gleis,
glace,
Huh?
Gleis.
glace,
Oh ja, Gleis, ja.
Du denkst mal, ich hat's nicht recht.
Ja, ich wusste nicht Gleis, konnte es nicht verstehen.
your klump, what's dumpling?
Klump.
Klump, okay, klump.
Klump und Kartoffel.
Gedabbel und Gleis, das ist recht.
Double in glaze, yeah. Okay, now we're going to do some different words. Have, to have.
Ich hab,
Ich han,
or Hon.
What's your hun? Your hun, huh?
und
I have.
Ich han, ich han,
You're a hun and you're a hop. You're a hop, yeah. Okay, pipe,
Pfeif.
Pfeif.
Or mir auch Pfeif.
okay.
Mein Großvater hat Pfeif geraucht. My grandpa smoked a pipe.
Hot,
Eis,
Eis,
stone,
Steine,
Star,
eyes,
Augen,
Adel,
am. I am.
I am.
Well, just am. The word, and I would be the subject. I am.
Ich sein.
Ich bin.
Yeah, he's a bin and you're a side.
Sein.
Okay. Okay. We just have a few more sentences, and then I think you guys have stories, okay? So, the bucket leaks.
De emmer.
Der Armer.
De emmer had een loch
Der Armer hat looking.
in Boden.
We started with harvest yesterday.
Wir haben gestern in die Ende angefangen.
Da haben wir gestern in die Ende angefangen.
I ate watermelon.
Ich habe Arbus gegessen.
Ich habe Arbust gegessen.
I drove the car into the shed.
Ich habe die Auto in den Schubbe gefahren.
Ich habe die Auto in die Shire gefahren.
Okay, yesterday we cooked potatoes and dumplings.
Gestern haben wir Kartoffel und Klump gekocht.
Gestern haben wir gedoppelt und Gläs gekocht und wenn du essen willst, wenn ich das machen sollte, dann kriegst du gar nichts. If I'd have to make potatoes and dumplings, you wouldn't have nothing to eat.
Ich denke, da sind viel Kartoffel und Klump da hier.
Kochen kann ich nicht, essen kann ich gut. I can't cook, but I can sure eat.
Es
Okay,
kommt so.
and this is the last sentence. The little child cried.
Das kleine Kind hat gekriegt.
Das kleine Kind hat gekreint.
Gekreint, ja.
Yeah. Okay, and I think now you guys want to tell some stories, but if you tell something, you want to give it both in German and in English.
Okay, kannst du anfangen? Ich habe schon eins erzählt.
Ja, ich hatte mal einen Nachbarsmann, der ist auf dem Montenhaus aufs Land gefahren und hat so Viech halt gefüttert. Und der Vater ist sein Nachbarsmann sein Feld rein und hat Wenzelfutter aufgeladen und ist dann heimgefahren und hat so Viech gefüttert. Und da oben kommt er heim bei seiner Frau und hat er gesagt, Mari, das ist gar nicht glauben, was ich heute Morgen angestellt habe. Und ich sagte, na, was hast denn du getan? Er sagt, ich denke, ich gehe verrückt, sagt er. Ich sei heute Morgen aus aufs Land gefahren und wollte unser Vieh füttern. Und fahre ich nicht in so Nachbarsmann allein ein und den Futter aufgeladen und unser Vieh gefüllt mit. Ich sage, na, das geht einmal nicht. Morgen früh gehst du rein beim Vater und fragst ihn für Vertreibens und sagst ihm, was du heute Morgen angestellt hast. Ist er halt den nächsten Morgen rein beim Vater gefahren und hat sich da hingesetzt, hat halt gefragt für Vertreibens und dann sagt der Vater eben, na, was hast du dann getan? Ich sage, ich sei gestern Morgen aus aufs Feld gefahren und mein Nachbarsmann hat Futter aufgeladen und unser Vieh gefüllt mit. Er sagt, ich denke, ich gehe verrückt. Ich denke, das ist was los mit mir. Und dann sagt der Vater, weil wenn du Vertreibens willst tun, morgen früh, fährst du nicht, aber heute Morgen in deine Feld und ladst Futter auf, aber du hast noch viel mehr Futter aufladen und gehst und fährst rein bei deinem Nachbarsmann und füllst den so Viech. Na, der Vater umgeguckt und er sagt, das kann ich ihm nicht tun. Er sagt, warum nicht? Der sagt, so frickt sein ich ihm nicht. That's a, you know, you hear the people laughing that understood it in German, but I'm going to translate it. It makes for a lot better story when they understand it in German. That's why you see these Germans laughing out here, because they understood what I just told them. Anyhow, this guy went out to feed his own cattle, and make a long story short, instead of going into his own field, he pulled into the neighbor's field and loaded his feed and fed his own cattle. Well, he come home that night and told his wife what he did. He said, I think I'm losing my mind. I drove into the neighbor's field, loaded his feed, and fed our cattle. Well, she said, you're going to have to go to the priest and confess that because you know that isn't right. It's not how we do things. So the next morning he went in to visit the parish priest and explained to him what he did. And Father told him, he said, well, the only way you can get forgiveness, he said, you're going to have to make this right. I want you this morning to go into your own field. He asked him, are you out of feed? Because you did that. He said, no, got plenty of feed. Well, the only way you're going to get forgiveness, you pull into your field, you load more feed, and go feed the neighbor's cattle. And he said, I can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? He said, I'm not that nuts. I'm not that crazy. Doesn't make much sense in English, but that's in German.
Hast du noch eins?
Ja, ich habe noch ein paar.
Okay, mach mal zu.
Ich habe einen Mensch gut gekannt. Der hat niemand geheiratet, hat immer selbst allein gewohnt und sein einziger Freund war sein Hund. Und am Morgen kommt mal raus, neben die Scheierleit sein Hund und war kaputt. Und dann kommt bei mich und er sagt über mich, du denkst mal, dass ein Vater geht raus bei mich kommen und trägt halt beide vor meinen Hund. Der ist gestern Abend gefragt. Der sagt, ist kein Vater, kommt mal raus und betet vor den Hund, wo gefragt ist. Dann kannst du dich drauf verlassen. Na, der sagt, du denkst mal, dass wenn ich nein bei einem Vater gehe, habe ich ihn selbst keine Frau. Na, der sagt, du kannst nein gehen, kannst nicht fragen. Geh mal hin. Fragen ob der Auto kann man Israel beim Vater nicht fahren. Sagt, dass sein Hund gefragt ist und er sagt, gehst mal raus, komm und gehst beide von meinem Hund. Der sagt, so was tun wir nicht in der katholischen Kirche. Der sagt, wenn jemand stirbt und dann haben wir ein Mess und eine Beerdigung, dann haben wir beide nicht über den Hund. Hat er ein bisschen gedacht, wusste halt gar nicht mehr, was er sagen sollte. Hat er sich rumgedreht, hat er halbwegs ausgelaufen, hat er sich wieder rumgedreht und sagt, ich habe gerade was gedacht, ich habe gefühlt, ich gehe ungefähr $5,000 hinlegen, wenn du heute ausgehst, komm und gehst vor meinen Hund beten. Da sagt eben der Mensch, der sagt, na halt mal, du bist hier, du hast mir gar nichts gesagt, dass dein Hund katholisch war. What I just said was, a fellow I knew real well, he was a bachelor, his only friend he had was his dog. The dog died. So he come to me and he said, I know you're Catholic. You think your parish priest would come out there and say a prayer for my dog? I said, that's not going to happen. We have a funeral, we have a mass, we have a burial, but we don't pray for dogs. He said, well, would you mind if I went in there and asked your priest? He said, no, you can go ask him. So he went in and asked him if he could come out and pray for his dog. He said, no. He said, we don't pray for dead dogs. He said, go ahead and bury your dog and forget about it. So he turned around, he's about out the door, and he turned around, he said, well, I got to thinking I might want to consider laying down about $5,000 if you come out there. He said, hold it. You didn't tell me that your dog was Catholic.
He was going to use him for a bingo prize. Well, I'll go with one. These old women, they always wore them great big dresses when they did their work at home or whatever. And to stay cool, they just put the big dress on. And the men a lot of times were out cooking whiskey, and they'd have to hide the whiskey. But then the revenuers, the federal guys, when they came to Ellis County, they had to report to the sheriff where they wanted to go. So the sheriff would have to take them out to show them where the place was, and they'd go and look for the whiskey that they had buried. And a lot of times the sheriff would notify the farmer that the revenuers are going to be coming, so hide your stuff. But at this one time, why, they just showed up all of a sudden, and they knocked on the door of the house, and they knew the sheriff was with them and the revenue. So the old lady had that big long dress on, and they didn't get to hide their whiskey. So she goes ahead. They had always their whiskey in little oak barrels. So the old lady just went, put the dress over that barrel, sat on it, and was praying the rosary. And they looked all over for that whiskey, never found it, but she kept praying the rosary. So it helped. It aged that whiskey a little too.
There's so many German sayings that our ancestors had right, and would tell you something it was on the money. You know, I grew up, we had a couple of neighbors out at the farm, Frank A. Worth and John Urban, and I'm going to tell this one in German. As a little shaver, war ein kleines Kind noch nicht das oft gehört. Das liebe Geld regiert die Welt. The love for money rules the world. I was a little kid when I heard that. Today it's completely enveloped the world. And think about this, our ancestors, when they came over here, they said things like that, and they meant every word of it. I'll tell you a little story about my grandpa. By the way, that's Norma Alvira's grandpa also, and Larry's grandpa. Growing up, my grandpa just lived a mile and a half west from us, and on occasion, I would walk down there to help him. And he'd meet me in the yard, and the first thing out of his mouth went like this: Kind, halt das Wort. Child, keep your word. Right behind it. Und wenn das Wort nichts wert ist dein Handschrift kein Deibel wert. And if your word isn't done any good, what you put in writing don't mean a damn to me. And he meant every word of it. My grandpa also was an avid pinochle player. That's where I learned to play pinochle. On occasion, Grandma would call out to the farm and ask if I could come to town on a Saturday afternoon, because there's 2 days left, Saturday and Sunday, to play pinochle. First with the 51 Chevy and then with the 55 Chevy. I'd get to sit in the front, Grandma in the back. Das war Graz als wenn ich in Himmel sein kann. Just like I went straight to heaven. We'd go to town, hat my Großvater gesagt, sagt, 8 Stunden Gebet. Nie ist an der Appetit mal vergangen. They prayed that your appetite almost left you. They were very good Catholic people. Not my Großvater gesagt, jetzt spielen wir mal Pinochle. Er hat immer gesagt, Kind, setz dich hin. Child, sit down. Ich weiß dich wie. I'm going to show you how. En hadden die jong geguckt, en dan zei er, setz dich mal net hier voor verleren. But don't ever sit down to lose. And when you're playing pinochle with me, I'm not visiting with any of you. I sit down to win. That's what he from my Großvater gelernt. I learned that from my grandpa. My grandpa, in his time, there were 2 Jake Haas's. One of them, Leo, would be related to through your sister. Her sister, right. And his second wife. My grandpa was known for his word, so they referred to him as the Hosejakob, last name first, on sein Wort. He was known for his word. The other one was young Jake. His second wife married your sister, was it? Her aunt. Aunt, right, okay, right. Right. So, Alvina, yeah. Hier is goed gekend. Ludwina, right. Punched him. Right. But, growing up with grandparents is really where, and parents too, but when I began my career in the tire industry, there's a gentleman sitting here today that I cut my eye teeth under. That guy's name is Elmer Greer. Taught me everything I knew on how to fix a tire. And I started my career there in 1962 at age 17. And my career there spanned locally about 14 years. And at the time, the language was predominantly all German. So they would stand in line to visit with Elmer or to do business with only the ones that spoke German. And of course that carried on in life. So every opportunity that I have, if you want to visit in German, I'll sit down and visit with you. We'll put English aside because I can switch languages at the drop of a hat and not even slow down. So, Leo, ich will dich halt viel danke, dass du da bist.
I was thinking that maybe if there is some words that you would like them to say, and we'll end with that, because I think the stories, we're pretty much done.
Yes.
Okay. And so is there anyone who wants to ask a word that these two could help you with? That you've always wanted to know what your grandpa or your grandma said?
Are there slang words that you would have used in your youth for, we're going to go party, we're going to look at that girl, she's pretty? What are some slang terms that you would have used a lot when you talk with your buddies?
Well, I'm going to tell you, he said slang words, but I've got to tell you a little story. You know, we're not done with stories yet. You know, I married my wife, of course, was from Munger, as I told you. And, you know, it was customary years ago to ask for the mother's or parents' hand in marriage prior to getting married. And so I was in the kitchen one evening with her mom and explaining to her that, you know, we had gotten engaged and were planning on getting married. And her mother, of course, fluent in German. Da hat die gesagt, Mädchen, du nimmst dich denn, der ist ein guter katholischer Junge. Honey, you take him, he's a good Catholic boy.
Boy, she was
Und der Fidel, da hat der drüber gesagt und hat die Zeitung gelesen, hat er das die Zeitung hingelegt und sagt, was? Müssen wir mit der Hochzeit alle? What? We're going to have another wedding, I guess.
How do you say, I don't need a man to fart in my bed?
Was willst du wissen?
I don't need a man to fart in my bed.
Du willst kein Mann ewig dir Hund.
Nein,
Ja.
ich will kein Mann fortze in der Bett.
Das kann ich nicht sagen. You know, when we, I know.
My great grandparents, they wanted me to get remarried after her husband died. She said, I don't need a man to fart in my bed.
Yes, I've heard that.
Oh, yeah.
You've heard that before?
Die hat genug mit Anmann. She had enough with the first one.
I'll ask Leo how he would say, like you would always tell us when we were little, cons to boot. What does that mean for him?
What was it?
What do you
Completely shut.
understand?
I would come home, der Ofensamt und sagen, ich habe ganz kaputt heute oben.
You would tell us that
Harder
one.
Tag und jetzt bin ich ganz kaputt. Hard day and now I'm completely shut. Yeah.
When you say completely shot, you mean drunk?
No.
Like we work so hard.
Oh, ich bin marodisch.
Ganz marodisch.
Ja.
Jetzt bin ich kaputt, habe ich immer gesagt. To the kids when they were growing up. Tammy, of course, is our historian in the family. My Aunt Rosie started the family tree in marriages, births, that type of stuff. Then my brother Priest took it until he retired at 84. And some time back, Tammy took it over. And that historical trip that we took to Russia opened some eyes and things that have taken place that I never experienced could happen. When we went to Russia in 2002, we spent 12 days there, and we came to a little town the second to last day. Every day when I'd get out of the bus, first thing I would say, "Du verstehst mal Deutsch." Nix. Everything was Russian. The second to last day, we got to Mariupol, Russia, Mariupol, Kansas, loaded with Germans. And I bailed out of the bus, and here comes this woman. And I said, "Du verstehst mal Deutsch." Und hat die mich angeguckt und ich sagte, ich verstehe Deutsch gerade so gut, wie du es verstehst. Same dialect, same everything. So I asked her, explained to her that my grandpa left behind 3 sisters. Koenig-Familie, a Weilich-Familie und a Miller-Familie. Und da sage ich über der, du bist mal bekannt mit der Koenig-Familie. Die Koenig-Familie kann ich nicht, weil die kenne ich nicht. Und uns ich gefragt, du kennst mal die Millersleit. Ich sage, mit die Millersleit sei ich ganz gut bekannt. Und ich sage, lieber Dad, ich will dann du diese gut gekannt. He said, my mother was a Miller. My mother was a Miller. So I point blank asked her one question after another. And she said, my mother was a Miller. And I said, what was your mother's name? And she said, Helena. That was one of my grandpa's 3 sisters that had to stay behind because they were already married and their husbands would not let them leave because the rest of the family all came except the 3. And so I asked her, he said, wie heißt dann du? What's your name? She said, Emma Wolf. He said, du warst doch was ein Wolfis? Ich said, ich wasn't Wolfis. You know what a wolf is? I said, of course I do. She said, der Basamalach, der wolf frisst dich like them alive. Be careful, she said, that wolf might eat you today. Sitting down there in a tree stump is her son. He said, wer ist dann das? He said, that's my son, aber das ist nichts wert. That's a schlechter Mensch. That's my son, but he ain't worth a damn. He ain't worth it. He ain't just worthless, basically what she said. Part ways through the conversation, after a lengthy one question after another, she just abruptly stopped and left me stand. Wonder what happened here. Earlier in the conversation, backing up a little bit, she said that she had been taken into a concentration camp at age 13, 14, and was not allowed to come back to her homeland until 1989. I asked her, what did you do all the time that you were locked up? She said, I did whatever they made me do. They would douse my body with kerosene because the lice were so bad. She said I could have pulled my individual eyes out of my head, pulled my hair out individually. So finally I asked her son, he said, "Förhållningsvis deine mother das dine flight mother rausgehen kommen." Ask your mom if she wouldn't please come back out here. Prior to her going inside, I said to him, I said, was this dan då baserat dass deine mother what happened here because your mother let me stand? And out of her mouth came these words. We're in Mariupol, Russia, on Russian soil. And she says, or he says to me, Meine Mutter getraut dich einmal nicht mehr. My mother no longer trusts you because you're asking all those questions. So that was an experience of a lifetime. To have spent 12 days, we visited all of the Volga German communities, plus many, many more communities. Norma was with us. Let's see, Elvira, Paulette, and Barb, three of her sisters. And like I told you, Norma's mother was my dad's sister, Martina. So they were on a family trip with us. But it was a trip of a lifetime, going back to retrace the steps of our ancestors coming from Germany to Russia to Ellis County. But wouldn't have been for the fact that I'm fluent in Germany, there's a pretty good chance we'd have never found her, because we always had Russian interpreters with us, because that's all that's left. Because if you were Catholic, they imploded or burned the churches to the ground. They bulldozed the cemeteries from the face of the earth. So there's no way of knowing where the communities used to be. In fact, I think it was 2000, I'm going to tell you 21. I believe it was 21. Some of you should remember when Bishop Joseph Pickle was, or Bishop Joseph Worth was here.
It was longer than that, huh?
Yeah. Anyhow, he rededicated and we have this in one of our newsletters here. He rededicated the cemetery with a huge tombstone for the community of Shenzhen, because there's people here from Shenzhen. And they had completely destroyed all the cemeteries, and he put a new marker on to tell exactly where the cemetery for Shenzhen used to be. And that's the way it was in every community. If you were Catholic and or German, they found you and took you out. So our ancestors that made the trek to America, they made the best trek there is, because, as I've said many times since we got back from that trip, don't ever take your freedom for granted. Ich will euch all danken, dass der heute seid. Thank you to all of you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. We will conclude this wonderful time that we've just had together. So thank you very much. Dankeschön.